Hey everyone, and welcome. Today we are diving deep into the world of late-night TV. And it all starts with one single, really dramatic statement from a host that honestly peels back the curtain on a much bigger story. A story about comedy, corporate power, and a whole lot of political pressure.
Okay, so let's just start right here. When you hear Stephen Colbert say, "Our long national late nightmare is over," I mean, what on earth could he be talking about? It sounds so over the top, right? Well, that line was actually the punchline to a very real and very tense situation that had just gone down.
So, to really get what this nightmare was all about, we've got to remember something crucial. Late-night shows these days are basically a major stage for political commentary. And the hosts, they walk this super fine line every single night. And sometimes, well, crossing that line can get them into some serious trouble.
And yep, that's exactly what happened. This whole firestorm kicked off when Jimmy Kimmel got briefly suspended by Disney, the parent company of his network. The reason? He made some comments that were seen as politicizing a tragedy to take a shot at the right. But that one move, it set off this massive, unbelievable chain reaction. So what did this so-called late nightmare actually look like? Well, the news about Kimmel's suspension didn't just make a few headlines. No, it immediately sparked this huge public outcry.
The backlash was fast and it was fierce. You know, for a lot of people watching, this wasn't just about one host or one single joke. It felt a lot bigger. It was seen as a corporation overstepping and really as an attack on free speech. And people let their feelings be known in some very, very modern ways.
And you can actually see the reaction in the data, which is kind of wild. There was this massive spike in Google searches for how to cancel Disney+. Colbert even joked that there was another spike for how to entertain a feral child without Bluey, which, tells you this whole thing really hit home for a lot of parents. The anger was so intense that in a moment of just pure global confusion, a ton of complaints were accidentally sent to the ABC in Australia.
But believe it or not, this is where the story gets even more interesting. The outrage wasn't just coming from Kimmel's fans or people you'd expect. It actually created one of the most unexpected alliances you could ever imagine, proving that, hey, the issue of censorship can make for some seriously strange bedfellows.
And Colbert himself just captured how totally absurd the whole thing was with this one line. I mean, think about it. Colbert's entire brand is built on criticizing conservatives. So when he suddenly finds himself on the same side as a Republican senator like Ted Cruz, you know something really, really unusual is going on.
So here's the bottom line. This whole debate just blew past the usual party lines. You had Colbert and Cruz, from completely opposite ends of the political universe, both raising the alarm about the exact same thing, a massive corporation that looked like it was silencing a critic. It stopped being about politics and started being about bullying and free speech.
But for the other late-night hosts, this wasn't just some isolated incident. They started connecting the dots, arguing that what happened to Kimmel was actually part of a much bigger and honestly more worrying pattern of behavior aimed at punishing anyone who's critical. Specifically, hosts like Colbert and Seth Meyers started framing the suspension as a sort of preview of what could happen on a national level. They pointed to what they described as alleged plans by Donald Trump and his allies to use the full weight of the government to get revenge on their political enemies.
And to back this up, Colbert actually laid out a list of what he just called bad stuff. This included things like Trump publicly asking his attorney general on social media to punish his enemies, whether there was a crime or not. It also pointed to accusations against his border czar and a really startling new policy change that affects legal immigration.
Okay, let's just pause on this number for a second. The administration announced a new fee for H-1B visas. These are the visas used by highly skilled workers at places like Google and Apple, and the new fee was $100,000. That is a mind-blowing jump from the old fee of just $1,500, a move that's projected to cost U.S. companies billions.
Seth Meyers actually gave this whole trend a name, calling it a plan of retribution. He described it as this detailed strategy that's been drawn up by Trump loyalists to basically sidestep the rules and get rid of any officials who might stand in the way of punishing political opponents. And to capture the kind of intimidating atmosphere this all creates, Meyers made a pretty dark joke. He said things have gotten so bad that some Democrats are now having to pre-shove themselves into lockers, like they're a nerd in a high school movie who knows the bully's coming. It's a funny line, but it paints a pretty chilling picture. So, After all of this, the suspension, the public backlash, the bizarre alliances, and these broader political warnings, what's the big takeaway here? It really brings us to this fundamental question about what comedy's role even is today.
This whole saga really shows that for these hosts, their job isn't just about landing a punchline anymore. They see themselves as playing this really crucial role in our public conversation. And in this case, they acted as defenders of the right to speak out and criticize people in power, even if it comes with a personal cost.
And that leaves us with this final question to think about. Historically, the court jester was the only person who could speak truth to the king and not, lose their head. So in our incredibly divided world today, what is the real power and what is the ultimate responsibility of our modern-day court jesters?